From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 topics of the week that make us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell, and James St. James, editor of the Wow Report.
How do you do?
I do very well, thank you. We have a jam-packed show this week with not one guest, but two guests. And we'll be chatting later with a RuPaul's Drag Race winner that Tom Campbell has called the Professor of Drag. So stick around for that. But first, at number 10, please welcome Dr. Eric Cervini.
Number 10.
Author of The Deviant's War. And also a fantastic book. The subtitle is The Homosexuals versus the United States of America, a battle that seems to be continuing to this very day. It's a fantastic book. But also, Dr. Eric, you are the creator of the Rainbow Book Bus, which is going to be traveling around the country, bringing banned, queer, and trans books to small town America. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a fan of y'all, everything you do. It's an honor to be here.
I think the honor is all ours. I really want to hear the how you came up with the idea for the book bus and where it's going to go. I want all the details. I think it's just fantastic.
Well, thank you. I mean, the inspiration in my life, my North Star has always been Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Growing up, I was a nerd. I didn't have that many friends, let alone a gay nerd in Texas. So, the one way that I could really, get excited on watching TV, especially without cable at the time, was by watching, PBS, learning from Miss Frizzle herself. And I think the idea of making learning, fun, as a historian, as an academic, I think so many people just assume that our history is so boring, that literature is boring, let alone LGBT literature, which is just so hard to come by. So to make it both accessible and fun and whimsical is just something that I couldn't pass up. And so one night I had the crazy idea of making this bookmobile and taking around the country and dropping off LGBT books all over the place. And now it's about to happen.
Is it mostly it is exclusively LGBT books, or is it banned books in general, or with a LGBTQ bent? Tell us about the how you choose the books to be distributed.
Right. Well, before the bus existed, there was I decided to open up a LGBT bookshop with my partner, Adam. And so the name of that is shopqueer.co. And then, as this political mess, this nightmare that we're in just became worse and worse, and more of these books were being banned, it's easy to be in our bubble in LA, selling gay books, and we would have done perfectly fine. But I think we felt like we needed some way to get books in the hands of folks, especially in underserved areas. So we partnered with a great nonprofit called Way Out. They have this wonderful network of LGBT centers in underserved areas. So we're going to be stopping by some of those LGBT centers across the South and other parts of the country that could really use these books, because, a lot of kids they don't have access. So it's a matter of just getting it into their hands.
We'll put your itinerary up on the Wow Report, but when do you set off, and where's to sort of map out the journey a bit?
Well, we're still finalizing it. Where the bus itself is going to be done. We need about one more week. It's debuting at LA Pride on June 11th. And it'll be, rolling down Hollywood Boulevard. And then it's a matter of finalizing that itinerary. So it's looking like probably the earliest it'll be is August. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be on the road and starting in LA and probably ending in Florida, because where else but the epicenter of
because everything ends in Florida.
Everything ends in Florida.
Are you a little apprehensive about going?
Of course, my mother is extremely apprehensive. As she's always asking about security, and fortunately, I think we'll be able to partner with some of these LGBT centers that are dealing with these threats every single day. These folks, these activists and community workers are really fighting the good fight, and they're doing so in conditions that are just terrifying. You know, anyone who's hosted a drag story hour knows how terrifying it can be right now, and some folks are dealing with it every day. So I think we're going to rely on them and their expertise to make us stay comfortable.
Brave. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
I have a storage unit full of Freak Show copies. I will donate them all to you that I can't get rid of to save my life. So they're all yours if you want them.
I have
got
a
one
book I want to see on the bus. Gee.
Oh, 100%. It'll be
Why do
nothing
you think
but.
you're on this show?
It'll be nothing but Screen Age by Fenton Bailey.
Also, will you have the big reveal by
Absolutely.
Sasha Velour? Yeah.
It's been selling like hotcakes. So I don't know if Sasha will be on maybe at some point, but she's absolutely wonderful, and tell her book is selling. It's on fire.
So, well, tell us about your book. I want to know about yours.
Absolutely. So I'm a historian by training. I got my PhD in history, actually, in Cambridge, not too far from. You went to our rival, didn't you, Fenton?
I went to Oxford. Yeah.
Yes. So we must hate each other, but
We do.
That's where I was studying history and wrote my dissertation on the pre-Stonewall gay rights movement. So the homophile movement is what it was called at the time. So looking at how, you know, queers began marching, how we started, you know, looking at the Black freedom movement and decided to actually start taking to the streets. And this was, you know, in the early 60s. This was before Stonewall. And then, of course, the movement exploded after that.
Do you see parallels between then and now? Like, is this a rhyming moment or a repeat moment?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the one thing you learn, any historian learns, is that it's cyclical, right? There's nothing novel really in human history. And so what we're experiencing, which is the scapegoating of queer folks, has been happening since the First Inquisition for 1,000 years, you know, like clockwork. You know, those in power, when they feel like their control over the populace is waning a bit, they start to take it out on people, to find a scapegoat. And that happens whether it was the Lavender Scare during the McCarthy era, during the AIDS crisis, Anita Bryant before that, and now it's happening again.
Good luck and stay safe. I mean, you know, and come back and we want updates. We'd like it'd be great to get updates on the road from.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's when you get to Florida, let's get a summary of your trip and call in for us, please.
And if you
Absolutely.
need anything, we can Venmo you or something. If you need something, we want you to be safe. We want you to eat. We want you to be safe.
Well, most likely what will happen is you'll get a call from a jail, and we'll be asking for some bail money.
Honey, I call Fenton every other week getting me out of jail. Fenton, I need help.
Yeah, so that's just, you know, any blocked numbers from incarceration complex. Make sure you answer.
Well, thank you, Eric, and good luck. I love calling you Dr. Eric because.
Oh God.
I thought you were wearing a Barbie shirt. What does your shirt say?
It says it's actually one of the first mottos from the gay rights movement, founded in '68 by Frank Kameny. Gay is good.
Gay is good. I love it.
We'll post all the links to your incredible literary empire, really, because there's a lot of different pieces to it on the WoW Report. And thank you and good luck.
Well, thank you so much, y'all.
All right.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Moving on to number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9 is my conspiracy theory of the week. I
went to see this last night, so I'm interested to see what you have to say.
Well, we're going to be talking about The Little Mermaid because there is a controversy. Controversy? How do you say it, Fenton? What is the English way to
controversy or controversy?
Controversy. There seems to be a bit of controversy about Melissa McCarthy's Ursula, where the role is famously based on Divine, the drag queen legend Divine. And this version, they have sort of de-dragified Ursula a little bit. And the LGBTQ community is up in arms saying she looks like a first, 3-month drag queen. Like, why couldn't we get Raven to do the makeup? She looks hideous. It's horrible. And it got to such a fever pitch that the makeup artist, who is straight, had to put out a press release saying, why can't a straight person do makeup? Why are you coming down on me for this look? Well, my secret conspiracy theory is that Disney did not want a drag look on purpose. Okay, because drag is, being demonized, and that they were already having a controversy by having a black mermaid, which, the people are up in arms about. So why go further and, be seen to be courting the drag and gay community? Why not just have a straight person do it as a cartoon as opposed to what drag looks are now? What do you think?
I don't know.
You don't think that Disney has meetings about these things all the time?
This has been in the works for months, right? Or years.
Years and years. It was shooting before COVID.
Yes, exactly.
But the drag backlash has been coming for a long time, and and hiring. You don't think that they're trying to make it as straight as possible?
No,
you don't think so.
Disney is so full of wonderful, creative gay people, and Melissa McCarthy is such an ally and
I'm not saying Melissa McCarthy has anything to do with it. I'm just saying that the hiring of a straight person to do a straight person's idea, not a drag ideal, was thought out and planned in a board meeting somewhere.
I just don't buy it, because I'm with Tom on this. I don't buy it, because I mean, it's almost the first time that, over time, we've had this evolution of the idea that only certain people can tell stories and only certain people can represent things.
But then why
to me, this is a new level. The idea that a straight person should not be allowed to do the makeup.
No, but that's the opposite. Why would you not have a drag artist do it? Why would you not, in this time when people are saying let gay people play gay roles, why would you not hire an LGBTQ person to do makeup when they are clearly the better choice?
But why would you go with I don't think the straight person was incapable necessarily of doing drag.
He was incapable. He did a horrible job.
He did.
But there was choices made.
That's what I'm saying. There were choices made at every point. That's
what you're looking at, James. That was a little test video. That isn't the final look. So
no, but it is the final look. Blake saw it. The look is terrible.
It is horrible. It is horrible. And I was wondering, it doesn't matter.
Every gay person who has seen it has said that this is a travesty, that they made bad choices along the way. So it was a choice to not give it to a Raven or someone like that who could do a drag job.
Or to maybe reinvent the character versus copy the character.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They're reinventing it away from the drag roots. They've taken it away from its drag roots of divine.
Right.
And they've made it a straight look, what a straight person's idea of a villain is. It's not. Melissa is a fabulous person. She's an ally. She's a great actress. She's a huge comedian. She can sing her ass off. She's wonderful. But the makeup artist did her dirty on this.
I think that's your opinion, but I'm sorry. I still
think it's not my opinion. Just go on social media.
Okay, well, let me rephrase it. I have a slightly different opinion. Like, I think all sorts of people should be allowed to tell all sorts of stories and work in all sorts of ways. I've always felt that. And
do you think that the worst possible person should be given the job?
I don't believe he is the worst possible
Have you seen it?
He's a very experienced makeup artist.
He's a very experienced prosthetic artist is what he is. He's not a makeup artist per se. He does more prosthetics and he does more, characters as opposed to beauty.
I have yet to see the movie. I plan to see it this weekend. I hear Melissa McCarthy steals the movie. That she's the best thing in it.
Well, I believe that.
No. Everyone should go see the movie, and then we'll regroup and do this again
on Twitter. Let's do it on Twitter, though.
Oh yes, yes, let's do it, because we know that's a forum for reasonable debate and for a sharing of different viewpoints. The Little Mermaid is in theaters now. Number 8, Tom.
Number 8.
I was looking forward to seeing this. Lena Waithe has executive produced a documentary called Being Mary Tyler Moore. Here are my 2 big takeaways. First takeaway is, God, I'm old, because I know every single beat of the story. It's great that it's being told. Mary Tyler Moore was one of my favorites growing up. Saturday night television was like my introduction to adulthood. From All in the Family, we've talked about this before, to the Jeffersons, to the Mary Tyler Moore Show, to the Bob Newhart Show. Sophisticated, smart ideas that I was so young, I didn't even know I was being treated to such, golden age of television. Followed at 10 o'clock by the Carol Burnett Show, where I basically learned my sense of humor, where I've learned how to do a sketch, where I learned how to produce RuPaul's Drag Race, for God's sake. So, and Mary Tyler Moore is exceptionally pivotal. And I knew every beat of it. And I think, James, you saw, I want to know. The other thing is that the one person they can really thank for this documentary is Miss Rona Barrett.
Oh, yes.
The spine of this, it's all pictures of Mary and footage. We don't see people actually being interviewed because they're mostly dead and they're using video. But there is an interview probably in the early 80s when Mary was in New York doing Whose Life Is It Anyway? Where Rona Barrett, who was this like big gossip columnist at the time, has kind of faded away. I think she's still with us. But Rona Barrett asked the most probing, interesting questions. It gets the most, I think, thoughtful answers from Mary. And it's throughout the documentary.
It's interesting because I think that Rona Barrett has been sidelined throughout history. And I think even at the time, people thought she was a bit of fluff and didn't really take her seriously. But you see what a great interviewer she is here. And that maybe we need to reconsider where we put Rona in our pantheon of interviewers.
Rona Barrett is the next documentary we need to do.
I was interested in how sad her life was. And so much of what we think of Mary is just being this little, ray of sunshine. It's not who she was. And she had so much suffering and so much pain. And her last 20 years were not happy. The last 30 years probably were not happy at all for her. And that made me sad.
Well, with the exception that she found love, that she had a husband. And that, but it always has been a disconnect. And the older she got, the more distant. I've read, this was not included in the documentary, I believe, but I've read since that Mary Tyler Moore was blind the last few years of her life, and she kept it a guarded secret. And there is a moment when Betty White was doing Hot in Cleveland, and they had a reunion of Georgia Engel, Mary Tyler Moore, and Valerie Harper. And they did, it's just an amazing scene. And they all meet, and Mary is seated at the dinner table already and plays a scene. And I do believe it was included in the documentary.
She might have been blind then.
She was blind then, and she was doing her best to do it. It's weird. I always think of like Stevie Wonder was so prolific in the 60s and 70s. He still makes music, but like his music was so hot. It was so of the age. It was so timeless and incomprehensibly good. And from the Dick Van Dyke Show, where she started, to the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is one of the most sophisticated, warm character studies ever put on television. And I swear to God, if you watch it today, young people, and it's on Hulu, there's no way you can't be caught up in it. But time passed her by. She had other accomplishments than personal victories.
But no. I think you're burying one of the leads there, because you go from Dick Van Dyke to Mary Tyler Moore, and then you go to Ordinary People, and it is a whole new Mary for a whole new decade. And it is shocking the different, I remember walking out of the theater just thinking, is that the real Mary Tyler Moore? Have we seen enough? I mean, she completely reinvents herself in that. And it's one of the great roles of all time.
Yes. She didn't become a movie star, but and she had a lot of attempts to get back on television they skip over that were unsuccessful. So, but I love Mary Tyler Moore, and I recommend, if you don't know much about her, watching Being Mary Tyler Moore is really, and thank you, Rona Barrett, for doing all those insightful questions.
Yeah. So the new documentary, Being Mary Tyler Moore, is streaming on Max.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. We got to say Max now.
I know. Did you see the thing about, Peacock is going to cut its name in half?
From Peacock to God.
Right.
Bum.
And I guess when they merge, Max Cock, or maybe if Paramount goes from Paramount to Mount, and then merges with Peacock, Mount Cock.
Mount Cock.
I like the way you think.
Yeah, it's not me. It's just me surfing Twitter and appropriating everything. Gonna take a quick break. RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars Season 8. It's on Paramount Plus in the US Wow Presents Plus, everywhere else tonight from now on. And also, by the way, today on Paramount Plus, Queen of the Universe Season 2. So stream it now. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us because this week for number one, we have a winning queen joining us, which is very exciting. So stay tuned for the big reveal.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James and Tom and Blake, of course. And we're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow. We've reached number, let me just check, 7.
Number 7.
If you know me, you know one of my favorite people in the world, one of my favorite singers, one of my favorite spiritual guides is Fantasia Barrino from American Idol. We had the luxury of working with her. Oh my God! In 2009, how is that possible? On Fantasia for Real on VH1, we have stayed close with her. When she's in town, we all get together, we talk, and she was in town, double billed with her opening act, Joe, and it was just amazing to see her. And at the same time that the Color Purple trailer has dropped, and I think our Fantasia, who's just one of the most talented people. I've always wanted to work with her in reality because anything that makes her more famous, I'm all for. And she is very famous, but like the trailer's amazing. She captivates an audience. Now, here's the thing. I am, if you can't tell on the radio, I'm like a very middle-aged, going to elderly white guy from New Hampshire. And yet I've seen Fantasia several times. I saw her once at the Apollo in Harlem during her Christmas show, and I swear to God, the Holy Spirit entered that room. Like I felt like a fog of spirit that she evoked, that this crowd went back and forth. It's hard to explain. And seeing her at the Microsoft Theater, the same thing happens. But it's so funny because Joe was her opening act. I'd never heard of Joe. He has a lot of songs. It was fun I was one of the only white people there. It was full of beautiful, happy, joyous. You can tell a lot about an artist by their audience, and people were having the best time of their life. And they were doing something I've never really seen before. And I guess I'm just don't get out much. But instead of videotaping the artist, they're videotaping themselves, looking good, singing the songs. It was just joyous. I'm just telling you, I was just like, and raptured by it. I know all Fantasia's music, I follow her, but people singing along, her doing a Tina Turner tribute. I mean,
I was just gonna say very quickly that I remember when she headlined LA Pride a few years ago, and we were backstage watching and seeing her perform. It felt like the spirit of Tina Turner. It felt like you were watching Tina Turner in the 60s. That just the way she just puts everything in every single moment, and she's just giving it 110%. It's fantastic. She reminds me of a young Tina Turner, and to see that, and she had the crowd reacts to her in the same way as well. It's fantastic.
Yes, and yet I can't wait to see what Color Purple does. I hope it represents her. I think there's an Academy Award in the Tui don't want to jinx it for in the works for Fantasia. Boy, does she deserve it.
You wouldn't jinx it. You gotta name it now, because then you can be like, I remember when I said there was an Academy Award. Because I'm with you. I think I haven't even seen it yet, but you just know it's going to be beyond incredible.
I saw her performing on stage, and she was just remarkable.
Yeah.
Didn't Allie Willis write the songs for it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God bless.
So it's amazing. And there was a little reception afterwards. She didn't know anyone was coming. Her manager didn't tell her. And it was just, she looks amazing. She's so humble. She leaned into me because, we knew her a long time ago. And I said, you look so beautiful, look so happy. She's been in a 10-year loving relationship with her husband, Kendall. And I was just like, she's like, you know what the difference is? She goes, I'm all grown up. And I just loved her. I just hugged her, and I loved her so much. So she's still touring, so look for Fantasia. But I can't wait for Christmas Day. That's where I'll be on Christmas Day.
All right, number 6, James.
Number 6.
Texas just passed a new sexual conduct bill that is really sort of interesting, and I want to talk about it. It expands what is considered illegal public performance of sexual conduct. Okay, and it puts in a broader effect it allows Texas to crack down on drag performances and LGBTQ performance as well. It bans real or simulated groping or simulated arousal and displays of sexuality on public property. Now, it also, and this is the kicker here, it also bars wearing accessories or prosthetics that enhance the female or male form in front of a minor or on public property. That's every drag queen. You cannot wear tits anymore. Drag kings cannot have bulges in their pants anymore. Or you face up to a year in jail, and the businesses hosting these performances are fined $10,000 for each violation. This is already passed. The bill also could ensnare suggestive rock performances, cheerleading, just sort of, and it also goes far enough that it can even behavior in private homes can be affected as well. It's one of the most draconian bills that have passed.
What about the strip clubs that all these politicians that drafted this go to, and all the fake boobs inside of the bodies? Are those?
It's when you know though how many politicians are ensnared in, are on Grindr, are, these anti-gay. I mean, like, they don't care. It's rules for thee and not for me, or rules from the whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
This one is a really weird one, and I wonder if other people are going to start listening to Texas, and Kentucky will follow suit, and Florida. It's that no prosthetics that enhance the female or male form.
Even so, if you're like, just to clarify, I mean, it's ridiculous, but just to clarify, if you're a female and you also enhance the female form prosthetically,
it bars wearing accessories or prosthetics that enhance the female or male form. It doesn't say that you have to be the opposite sex. It's just if you are wearing prosthetics or an accessory. But when you think of Jimbo is no longer going to be welcome in the state of Texas anymore, or any rubber boobs.
If this outrages you and you want to do something, a little something, you can go to the ACLU Drag Defense Fund, which we're a little part of, to help, and we're raising money. We've raised, we've helped to raise, and again, it's a lot of other parties and people involved, over $1.4 million. And you can still go to the ACLU Drag Defense Fund and give $1, give $2, do something, because we've got to fight this in the courts, and they have to defend and ensure our rights.
And I can't help thinking that some of this legislation is written just not written very carefully or thoughtfully.
Right.
So that they had the same problem with the Tennessee drag law. It was like so confusingly written, sort of
it's not going to stand up if it goes to the Supreme Court, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm not. I suppose what I really want to say is sort of written by morons, I suppose. But
I have a feeling it's deliberately written vaguely so that it can cover as much ground as whoever wants to use it can
interpret it, right?
Yeah. I do honestly find it really perplexing in some respects, like where this is coming from, why this is seen as a
winning argument, is why this is seen as, I have a feeling that there's one or two, outraged mothers somewhere, and they are thinking it's like the million moms or whatever, that it's really like 20 people, but
it's
the tallest poppy syndrome. It's a bright, shiny thing that they can knock down. It's easy. It doesn't take thought and intellectual, prowess. It's just like, get rid of that. Terrible.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to number 5.
Number 5.
Something I know everyone has been waiting for is the final succession, the final episode, the final countdown, the final reveal, the final.
I think I'm angry at Succession. I think I'm angry at Succession, like when someone breaks up with me. I'm like, okay.
Oh, well, I had something to say about that, because I felt after watching it a profound depression And I realized I have been addicted to this show for all these years, all these seasons. And I feel, as brilliant as it is, that it has been a kind of toxic relationship. And I felt absolutely sort of just that, that sort of shame of like waking up with a hell of a hangover and having done things you shouldn't have done and feeling
there was no redemption of any of the characters in the end. They all ended up exactly where they should have ended up because they're all horrible people. I do want to just say that two of my favorite lines in the entire episode, though, were Stewie kisses boys on Molly, which just had threw me on the floor. I loved that. And the other was when Willa said, I have a play reading in 6 to 8 months. I have a table reading. And now she gutted the apartment and putting the cow couch in, the cow print couch. My favorite scene, though, that I wanted to talk a little bit about, though, was because the meal fit for a king scene in the kitchen,
yes,
which a lot of people interpreted as sort of the calm before the storm, because as you were watching it, you knew that they were giggling and laughing, but things were about to go, shit was about to go down. And it was sort of the tick tick before the boom. But to me, it meant that no matter what, these characters, no matter how bad things get, in the middle of the night, they can always steal away to the kitchen and tell private little jokes, and they're always going to be connected, and they're always going to be able to break into giggles with each other. They are connected in a way that nobody else will ever understand. And I have that relationship with my siblings too. We can argue and scream and shout, and then 10 minutes later, we're in the kitchen, eating, cheesecake and laughing. I had it with Michael Alig. Some people, you just have those things where like you can just stop everything and break into a laugh. And that's what I loved about that scene so much.
But that scene, I would say, James, was the only such scene in the entire series, all the seasons, where they actually felt some joy with each other. It was the only one. There was no other scene.
Well, there was that great scene where they were making fun of Kendall and saying how they would murder him, and they were remember, just right before that, you know. I do think that they are profoundly connected in a way that no one else will ever understand what these billionaire children have gone through.
Tom,
I thought it ended just as it should. People, are people angry at Shiv or Shiv? Was it
Shiv becomes her mother is what happens. Shiv ends up as her mother. She's the power behind, she's married to a man. She has that child that she's not going to get along with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she sort of ends up on the side of power. She always is.
Yeah, she is power behind the throne, behind both Matsson and, because Matsson's going to fuck her at some point.
But that's what I haven't seen. That's what I haven't sort of read or seen. Everyone sort of felt, well, no one wins, but actually Shiv is the winner. She actually wins because it's their baby. So
but Roman wins too, because Roman never wanted it. He really didn't, and he's glad to be out. He is a rich trust fund boy. He doesn't get Jerry, which I think kills him, but he's free of his father's legacy. He doesn't have to live up to being his father. Because he couldn't do it. He could not do it. Every time he whiffles on every time he gets to bat,
But it is a weird stakes-free. With all the stakes, there were no stakes.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, because they're still rich, they'll think of the new scheme tomorrow. And didn't they buy from Cherry Jones?
They did, yes.
Didn't they buy a whole other like media conglomerate?
They did, but it just didn't get mentioned because it's like buying a handbag. It's like, oh yeah, we got that somewhere. I just don't feel this can be the end. There has to be. Maybe in a few years.
I think it's good to give it a rest. Because it was getting a little repetitive and a little redundant. So it'll be interesting to clear the chessboard, if you will.
And of course, Greg will always be Tom's little bitch that we saw in the bathroom. That relationship ain't gonna get any better. I don't know if you remember this. This was pointed out that in the first episode, Roman is married with kids. I don't know if you remember that. He's at the airport scene. He's with his wife and child, and they never mentioned it again.
Oh,
You'll have to go back and watch the pilot episode.
interesting.
Well, that is Succession, streaming on Max if you haven't seen it. Drag Race Mexico with hosts Valentina and Lolita Banana premieres June 22nd worldwide, excluding Mexico, on Wow Presents Plus. And it's on Paramount Plus in Mexico and MTV Latin America. So this one is amazing too, and there's a lot of excitement around it. And yeah, we'll just take a break and we'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
All right, welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake, of course. And we're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow, and we've reached number 4.
Number 4.
I wasn't here last week when you guys got to memorialize Tina Turner. I just want to talk about some of my faves. And you know, there is on Sirius XM, there's a Tina Turner network now, and they're going with deep cuts. But I have to, it's like the soul, usually it's soul. It's like 50, it's before Studio 54. So I don't know, it's in the late 40s. But there was in 1985, there, you know, the Tina Turner album came out because, you know, Private Dancer is just one of the best albums, and its history is, you know, it was made like in 2 weeks or something. It was like this last gasp at a career for Tina Turner, and they took her to Europe, and they, you know, they found all these songs, and, you know, what's love got to do with it? Private Dancer. But she also, and then there was this concert that I'd never seen before. It was shot. I was on HBO. I taped it. I watched it like I watch YouTube now because it had cameras from the back, like what do drone shots now? They must have had cameras on wires. They just flew over
the one in Brazil, right?
I don't think it was. And that's when she had that big armed saxophone player, and she just looked, and she was in a denim jacket, you know, a leather skirt. You know, she's dressed like from H&M. She's wearing and that hair, and all of it is exquisite. But there is a moment, it's a strange moment. I'm sure it's just role playing for me. It's like porn where you can imagine yourself as one of the participants. But it's Bryan Adams and Tina Turner, who did a duet called It's Only Love. And it's this rock ballad. And she's like, here's someone I've done a duet with, and he's from Canada. He's welcome, Bryan Adams. And he comes out, gung, gung, with his pockmarked face. He's so fucking hot. This is before his Robin Hood music, when it was like summer of '69. Oh, and he comes out, stand face to face, and they scream at him. They sing at each other. And the world doesn't matter. There nothing else matters. It ain't over, baby, because it's only love. And that's all. And then Tina will grab his mic because he's playing guitar and lean it toward him, like she grabs his dick and puts it in his mouth. And then she what you gotta see it. It's Only Love, Tina Turner. And in the meantime, they have 19 cameras, so you're seeing everything from every angle, and the things coming from the back of the thing. And at one point, the whole song goes bunk, 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 and they stop staring at each other. And before the music starts, Tina goes right, like inches from Bryan's mouth. Wow! And I'm like, oh my, I have.
I have never heard anyone get excited about the Tina Turner Bryan.
I'm telling you.
We watch this music video all the time at my house for after hours. So
thank you.
That is hysterical. You guys are so obscure, so random.
You've got to see it. And again, as a white guy with some skin blemishes, I am Bryan Adams, and Tina Turner is screaming in my face. So that's my memory.
I don't think anyone ever thought that Bryan Adams was hot. I think you're the only person on the planet.
Tina Turner and I were into him in 1985.
You've actually just reminded. I have a Tina Turner story because sometimes when people die and they're posting on social media all their pictures of them with Tina Turner, I say, yeah, I don't have a picture of Tina Turner. But maybe better than that, Randy and I dressed up as Tina Turner and performed Proud Mary.
No. Where's the tape? Where's the tape? Where's the tape?
It is out there somewhere. Nelson taped it. And yeah, me and Randy and Tish and Snooki, there were 4 Proud Marys. And,
We have also been watching old Nelson videos during after hours, you guys. So it's been really interesting to see James with long hair, just like you and Michael Musto reenacting like old movies from the 50s on camera.
Yes.
And the pop cart performing and Gabe Rotello introducing you. It's really fun.
Wow. Right. Yeah.
My favorite, I maybe Tom, you can remind me. My favorite Tina Turner video is the one where it's all the hot guys and she's in a giant red shoe.
Typical male.
Typical male.
I want is a little reaction.
Yes, that's my favorite.
Typical male. Oh, and we don't need another hero, and I can't stand the rain.
I can't stand the rain.
And better be good to me. That's how
I love Better Be Good to Me. That's one of my favorites. But my favorite is the Al Green. Let Mercedes Sands.
That was her comeback. That was the beginning of the comeback right there. That's what got the album.
Yeah, that's that was huge at the gay discos when I first started going out.
Loving you forever.
Sorry. All right. Number 3, rest in perfection. Rest in perfection, Tina Turner. I mean, I don't think you can ever say enough about her, really. It is an epic story and an icon for the ages, you know. Number 3. There's so many like real life Succession things to talk about this week, but I'm not going to talk about any of them other than just one thing. And I really want your opinion on it too. So it was Cannes Movie Festival, right? The film festival.
Oh, God,
always seen as the epicenter of glamour. And I guess the new Logan Roy is David Zaslav, who, you know, is head of Warner Brothers and Discovery.
Destroying media from within. He is one of those terrifying characters that since Logan Roy, yes.
Right. Who I hope is not listening to this show because of what follows. But he joined up with Graydon Carter, who, let's face it, has been, as the editor of Spy and then of Vanity Fair, has been one of the great social architects of the time since Tina Brown. You know, he's he puts people together at parties, and he's the guy.
His new airmail, which I get every week. Yes.
Oh, you do? Right. Yeah. I didn't know he's best friends with David Zaslav, and David Zaslav thought for some reason that it would be a good time to have a knock 'em dead, blowout, massive Uber party at the Hotel de Cap Eden Rock.
Not since the 1970s has anything been so decadent and filled with AAA star power. It has been bring out the jewels, bring out the big hairdos, bring out the cheetahs, make it as vulgar and as crazy. And when I tell you that I read this article that you sent to us,
same article, yes,
describes this party. And it is every A-lister. It is Leonardo DiCaprio with his latest girlfriend seated next to, you know, Selma Hayek and her husband, the billionaire. And everybody's at these power tables, and it gives you the listing of whose power is where.
And how they can all be relieved because they're in the right place. They're in the right place,
yes. And even people that, and I'm sorry, people that I used to look up to, I'm not even going to mention her name, but there was someone that I always thought was fabulous. But just the fact that she was at this party makes her just icky and gross, because everything about this party is just vulgar and icky and gross. But wait a minute. And the thing is, I can say that, but I don't think either of you can say that, because I will never be AAA at David Zaslav's party seated next to Graydon Carter. But theoretically, you two could end up at one of these tables someday soon.
Certainly not after this week's show. I mean, here's the thing, you know, like David Zaslav, bless him, is paid $246 million a year. And number one. Number two, he is trying to cut $2 billion from the bottom line of this massive media entity, which includes not releasing movies that have been written, filmed, and shot.
The Batgirl debacle.
And he is asked about the writers' strike by this reporter, and he says, what does he say? He says, some of my best friends are writers. It's really painful. And it's just the sort of, to me, to read the room.
He's thinking Tom Wolfe is his best, you know, Fran Lebowitz is his writer best friend. He's not friends with the writers in the writer room for, you know, Goldbergs.
I sometimes wonder if
Yeah.
he's the poster boy for this era, because and I want to defend him a little bit, because streaming is out of control. They spent too much money. It was a bad investment. It was like an arms race that went bad.
Right.
And so but Disney's doing the same thing in a different way. So, but I have to say, so part of me wants to defend him and say, oh, he gets the brunt of the thing.
But he is
the optics of this. Let me finish. The optics of this are undeniably horrible.
Right.
It is so Marie Antoinette. It is so. It is right before they put everybody in the guillotine. It really is.
So it just felt like an episode of Succession. As I was reading the article, I thought this is like Succession because it's so wrong. The optics are so awful.
So we got your addiction going again.
And
so now
that it happens during the writers' strike when they're trying to, replace writers. They aren't paying Netflix writers, but they're giving the Netflix head, $200 million, and it just everything about it is disgusting.
But I throw out just two things that he said, because and part of me empathizes in a way that you can't throw a big party at Cannes at the Hotel de Cap Eden Rock serving Dom Perignon in this present moment and get away with it. But he did say, about the guest list, he said, oh, it's our best friends. It's our real friends, no assholes. How can that even be number one? And then
number one, when they're all assholes. I'm sorry. Every single one of those person is just more disgusting than the last.
I know. And that's sort of what's so funny. And that's why it's like Succession, because it's so absurd.
So
it's almost
self-aware.
It's almost comedic. And the big takeaway from the article for me is that Graydon Carter will now be redesigning the commissary of Warner Brothers, because apparently it looks like a fucking Marriott, and he's going to.
I love that.
That's the problem in Hollywood right now.
Priority.
That is the biggest problem in Hollywood right now, is the commissary at Warner Brothers, and it needs a little classing up is what it needs.
Yes. Okay. Let's change the subject. We'll post the link on the Wow Report so you can read it for yourself. But it is a kind of genius piece of writing. Yeah. Read it for yourself and see what you think. All right. Yes. Number 2, Tom.
Number 2.
Rest in peace, George Maharis. I knew his name. He was on Route 66, which was a huge show before I was born that I've never seen. That was like epic and very like golden age television in the early 60s. He left controversially the mid-third season because supposedly he had hepatitis, and it was a show that went on the road, and so they went from place to place to place. I know him because he was the first celebrity to pose naked in Playgirl. And I only realized while reading his obituary, he died at 93, that he was gorgeous. And you can see just a little tiny sliver of his penis if you go online. He was a gay. And so you wonder what the hepatitis was from too. And the idea was that when he left Route 66, they ruined him because they were saying that he had sort of kept his lifestyle to himself, and it was somehow outed, and he was kind of never mainstream Hollywood again. He made a few movies. Yeah. Yes, he was blacklisted or pink listed. So I and we live with celebrities showing off their butts. We live with OnlyFans. I just think how forward, how fabulous is George Maharis, who ended up being joined by Jim Brown, who we lost recently, who was also naked in Playgirl. Lyle Wagner, who was naked in Playgirl.
Yes, that was a big one.
I just want to,
Reynolds, Joe Namath.
Yes, I didn't realize until now that that George Maharis was one of us. He's a beautiful man. Google him, do what I do with my Google, George Maharis nude, and then just enjoy.
Go from there.
Yeah, go from there.
Rest in power. No, rest in perfection.
Rest in penis. Too much?
We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, reveal the number one thing that made us go, wow, this week. Very excited.
Rest in perversion.
There you go.
Shame me.
Very excited to reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow, one of the most legendary queens of RuPaul's Drag Race. Mm-hmm.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with James and Tom, of course. and very, very excited. A little bit, I'm fangirling a lot, to reveal the number one thing this week that makes us go wow. Not just this week, but every week, every day, every year, ever since she won, snatched the crown on RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9. It is my honor to welcome to the show for the first time, and hopefully not last, Sasha Velour.
Number 1.
Hello. Thank you for having me. What an illustrious group of bald people. I'm sorry I left my glasses in the other room.
And we're very excited to have you here because of the big reveal, which is this is your first book, right?
My first book.
Mhm.
Fenton,
And
thank
it's
you for marking it
fantastic.
up. I see you've been reading it actively.
Oh yes,
It's
I
so
have
nice.
post-its. Yes.
I'm honored.
It's really I had so much fun with it. For the audience out there listening, you do such an amazing job of weaving your personal history with the history of drag, with contemporary drag scene. You weave it all together really, really beautifully. I enjoyed every second of it.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Put that on the book if we get a second reprint. Thank you.
Verbomatic here.
Exactly. No, I learned from you all how to combine the funny bits with the serious things and try to advance the message about drag being part of world culture for everyone. So thank you. Thank you. I know I've said this many times, but thank you for opening the door to let me even create a project like this and pitch it and put it out into the world. I hope it will change some things or make a small ripple.
The whole book is fantastic. The first chapter, especially though, with the kind of history of drag, really going back to its sort of ancient roots. It's so great to read something where it's like, no, drag was not invented the other day. It has been here for thousands of years. It is a part of our DNA, like as opposed to this thing right now that is everyone's like, all the protesting and all that nonsense.
That's right. As long as people have had stages, we've had drag on it. It's just something people naturally do. And I think the crisis around it is so manufactured. And just seeing the facts laid bare, to me, illuminates that and makes it all look ridiculous. But some people don't want to listen, is what I found.
Why do you think that now, after thousands of years, that all of a sudden at this flashpoint in history, like why is there the backlash?
Don't you think it's because of your great success? I feel like the path that Drag Race and World of Wonder has done, it's opened up this conversation in small towns and among families, and people are talking about drag. They're talking about queer and trans people being normal, and that is shocking to people who don't want to see any progress happen. I feel like the public opinion has already changed. People are already on the side of queer and trans liberation, and that we can't go back from that, but that's scared this small vocal minority.
Right. This is that sort of last pushback before the wave breaks,
I mean, there's examples of it throughout history. The pendulum does swing. Even when we're making progress, the pendulum swings. And, it sounds superficial, but the idea of disco sucks. That was sort of a pushing down. There's a lot of gay liberation in the 70s and before AIDS and all that. And it was really pervasive. I was looking at on my Facebook or something. It's like the Billboard charts 1979. You're like, oh my God, it's the Village People. It's the gayest things on earth. And then everybody sort of pushed it away, but you can't keep it down. Dance music exists and changes, and queer culture is incredibly adaptive and moving on from where everyone's trying to tack us down and beat us down. So God bless us for all of our weirdness. I love what Ru says. It's like they think our joy and our sissiness and all of our stuff is weakness, but it is our strength. It's what makes us malleable and live through it anyway. No preaching.
Absolutely.
Sasha, I have to ask, I know this is ancient history to you, but you set a new bar. I just have to talk about your most famous moment on Drag Race, which is when you broke the wig. I'm so emotional, and the rose petals came down.
A big reveal. It was a big reveal.
Does someone other than me bring that up every day to you? Is that haunting you? Is that how do you sort of place that moment in history?
Oh my gosh, a hit's a hit. I'm so grateful for it. Of course it haunts me, and it's a blessing too. I feel like, yeah, I had to call the book The Big Reveal. It is what I'm most known for. I'm glad I get to be known for something other than my obsession with history and being such a nerd and my accidentally pretentious way of talking and just trying to pay homage to this thing I love so much. But yeah, I can put on a show too and rip my wig off.
I have a feeling that your tombstone is going to be littered with rose petals throughout all of eternity. Just know that when you die, that's going to be the thing that people sprinkle on your grave.
I'll take it.
It was such a delicious detail when you're describing that moment and you talk about, well, I'm shaking anyway. So if I like, it was like, it's just lovely.
Oh, I love that.
Can I ask you though, a question like before your drag self, I suppose, you were a Fulbright scholar in Moscow?
Yes. A different life.
Tell all.
Well, I have this, I learned Russian because of my family background. My dad learned Russian to be able to speak to his grandmother. And so we have this like family tradition of learning this language. If you ever do Drag Race Russia, by the way, call your girl. I know there's queer people everywhere. But I was so interested to go and learn. And I wanted to secretly study gay activism in Russia because I was really interested to see what was happening there. But you have to get the project approved by the Russian government. So I pitched it as art in public. And I did look at some galleries and free art museums and stuff, but I was so interested in the activism and the organization that was happening in the gay movement there. And I was really shocked how divided it was. People organizing small parties who did not want pride, people really hoping for visible queer expression and pride. And they were like actively infighting with each other. And I thought that was so interesting and made me reflect on divisions that we have in gay activism. We're not always aligned with what the next step needs to be. So I thought that was really interesting. And all of it made me want to dress up in drag and be part of being loud and being visible and being as gay and sissy and proud as possible when I got back home. And also Russian women are over the top and wear stilettos and pantyhose every day. And it got me kind of my nails a-clicking, as it were.
I think we've talked before about how my fantasy is just to take 2 or 3 months at the Hermitage and just not leave, just sleep there. Did you get to spend a lot of time doing Russian art and the Hermitage and stuff? Yeah.
Okay, well, do you know about how I worked as a security guard?
You were docent there or something, weren't you?
Well, I was just an emergency translator in the lobby, but they made me also tell people to take water out of their pockets in every language. So that was my security guard. It means telling them to put their coats away and telling people where the bathroom was. I learned how to say that in 5 languages too. But yeah, I got to wander the museum for free, and it was the most amazing experience.
Absolute heaven.
Yeah, let's go in a few years when it's safe again.
Yeah, have you been back since? What do you think is the sort of outlook there? Like, because presumably there is a strong drag tradition there.
Yeah, and of course, drag queens, I imagine, are really against Putin and against the system, so they have to be quiet and hide in this time. I think people are trying to get out and find other places to go to survive this oppressive regime. But there's always going to be drag in Russia, I believe. So I think we
Sasha, in addition to your book, if people want to see you, are you performing? Where can we see you? Online, in person?
Yes. I have my monthly show Nightgowns in New York City. We are doing a residence at La Poisson Rouge in the Village. Wonderful. And have special guests every month. And I'm touring again with my new show inspired by the book called The Big Reveal. But I'm taking it on the road and going to Europe and hopefully even further abroad. But it was great.
I'll go to Europe then. That's it.
Exactly. Well, if you like, we'll post the dates on the Well Report with the with the piece. So what's next in your, because you are a world dominating queen, you are sort of, you have huge fans in Germany, South America, Mexico. You are sort of truly an international sensation.
Thank you for saying that. Oh my goodness, I'm blushing. No, I still feel like I have a lot that I can do and a lot I can show. I want to develop more drag theater pieces, more reveals, bigger, better,
Bigger.
more roses, whole gardens.
Another book? Do you have another book that you can start working on right now? Do you have any ideas?
Next book, I'm done with history. It's all fiction and fantasy from here on. I think we need like a drag murder mystery series with a crew of detectives.
Well, you did a wonderful job of describing your anal fissures. I'm wondering if maybe you could do some sort of medical help for drag queens.
Medical procedural.
It's going to be a really intense gallery show about that same theme, James. I'll walk you through personally. It'll be just like the Hermitage.
Don't give up on the history. I've heard about the Berdache. Is that the way you say Berdache, or is it Berdache?
Berdache? I don't know either.
I had no idea, speaking of anal fissure, no idea it means bottom.
Yes,
it's slang for bottom.
Isn't that cheeky? And that two-spirit was used to replace that because it was deemed offensive, which I also didn't know. I thought that was like some ancient term, but it's from the 90s. And
now two-spirit, I believe, is being what is two-spirit being replaced by? Because there's some controversy around that too.
Interesting. See, language keeps changing. I'm not even up on it.
Exactly. Language itself is a kind of drag, right?
Yes. Always getting a makeover.
Yeah. Padam, padam.
Padam, padam. Not just the Edith Piaf song anymore.
Right. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us. It is so it's a real thrill, and congratulations on everything. And the big reveal is out now wherever fine books are sold. Did you do the audiobook too?
I did, of course.
Yeah.
I had so much fun.
And don't give up on the history. We want more.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, let's talk. Thanks. Have me back anytime. Lovely seeing you all. Best of luck. Congrats on Screen Age. Congrats on everything. Wow. Much love to you.
Love you.
My granddaughter. My little bald granddaughter.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning into the Wow Report on Radio Andy Sirius XM. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.